Hello and welcome back to the Overland Legend. This is my series on restoring my Series 1 107. In the last episode I reached a massive milestone. I finally took this Landy for its first drive. If you haven't watched that video, then you have to make a plan to watch it. In this week's video, I'm going to sort out some leaks that have cropped up and finish assembling a few items. But even more important is getting it ready to start fitting those body parts. If you watched the last video, you'll remember that when I filled the rear diff with oil, there was a leak, and I left it for later because I was just too excited to go for that first drive. Well, today I tackled that first, to get it out of the way. Removing the diff was relatively easy with the body off. When I took the diff out, I could see that there was a little gap at the bottom, where the gasket didn't seal properly. So that must have been the spot where it was leaking. I cleaned everything up again and applied a fresh layer of sealant. But this time I made extra sure that the tricky spot at the bottom was properly covered. Then I refitted it. Redoing this also gave me a chance to replace the old nylock nuts with some new ones. I was nervous refilling the oil again, but so far it all looks good. I still needed to line up the steering components properly, so I did some final adjustments, and then I also did an initial wheel alignment. Initially I was planning to buy a new bumper because the old one had this nasty kink in it, but then I decided to give it a try and straighten it with the help of Brian and his big 10-ton press. I think it came out really well. It's not perfect, but it looks pretty good and it tells the story of this Landy. Okay, I cleaned up, I took these handles apart now, and they are super simple inside. So you just, this is the little, where the shutter thingy sits, and it's really simple. So it just goes that way, and then on the inside you've got a spring that sits over here. Like that. So I mean, these are the two springs that came out. This is the one and this is the other one that's broken. So now I've just taken it all apart and just cleaned it. I'll get it all plated now. Hopefully that'll be alright. And I straightened this handle. This one was all bent, so I straightened that out. This other one, this one's also bent, but I need to do a little bit of welding on here, I think, because this thing's got a bit of a crack in this one. So that's a bit of action. So yeah, that's like, geez, almost 70 years of action. And check at this. You can see over here, you can see the marks from the spring, how it's moved up and down there over the time. And this one's the same. This one's quite a lot more. Interesting. Okay, so that's fairly simple. So I'll get all of that sorted out. When I got the handles back from electroplating, this is what I had back, and it all looked really nice. So now I'm just gonna get the rest of the bits I need to get the springs sorted out, and then I've got everything else, and I can actually start putting it together again, and then I can fit it onto the doors. So that's going to be quite nice to get these back to working order. Hopefully they all work properly and I'll be able to use them, but I'll only really know once I put them back together again. My original doors were so badly damaged that I decided rather to get new ones made. I was still waiting for them to be painted, but I wanted to check the firewall position before fitting the rest of the body parts. So I got the pre-painted doors and fitted the hinges. Then I did a bit of a dry install to check the alignment, especially after all that fiddling that I've done on the radiator panel. But I was also dying to get more of a glimpse of what this Landy was going to look like when it was finished. It was really great to see it taking shape, and the good news was that it all seemed to be close enough to work with, and the gaps seemed to be okay. I still had to refit the lower dash panel that I'd originally taken off to get the cold start assembly off. This whole choke mechanism was used on the Series 1 and early Series 2 Land Rovers. It's quite a contraption, and it consists of a simple switch which is actually the same as the brake switch, and the choke cable that activates the switch when you pull it. I managed to restore the original one, but I chose to rather use a replacement bracket that I'd found that was in better condition. The only thing that I still needed was the black knob, which I'll have to manufacture somehow. Once I'd cleaned everything up, I could reassemble it. I replaced the old cable with a new heater cable from a Series 3, because it's actually the same as the original choke cable from a Series 1. And then there was another problem that I found. The original brake master cylinder that I'd had restored at great cost was leaking. It's a later Series 2 CB type and not the original Series 1 type. These old CB type cylinders are notoriously difficult to bleed because they get an airlock that forms at the back of the cylinder. so I decided just to replace it with a newer CV type. This is an aftermarket product that I immediately had re-sleeved with a stainless steel sleeve before I fitted it, so that I could be sure that I have a reliable and trouble-free master cylinder. This change also meant that I had to bend new pipes to fit the new master cylinder. I only realized once I was getting all my body parts painted that I didn't have this, the part that fits on between the actual gearbox tunnel and onto the firewall. It must have been missing and I never really noticed, so I couldn't find the original one. But what I had to do then is I got a normal 4-cylinder one, and I got Charles to just modify it for me. So the difference in these is that the curve over here is a lot more pronounced on this 107. So we've just he cut this off and then welded it on, did a great job here, and now it fits perfectly, and then the rest of the holes all line up, so it's all fits nicely. Then the only other difference is this little bulge here, which you don't have actually on the Series 1 version. And that's just to clear the gearbox here, so it's actually a little bit better, because this, I could see this old one was obviously rubbing over here. You can see the rub marks over there, so I think this is actually going to work better. So anyway, I've got one now. I must just get it off and get it painted. Finally, after attending to all these other bits and pieces, I could get to starting with the assembly of the body parts. I've decided to use a thin foam sealing strip between the panels rather than that gooey black butyl rubber sealer. In my haste to get the job done and get stuck into it, I stuck the strip on the wrong panel, but luckily I managed to remove it again. And then I stuck it onto the inside of the gearbox cover and fitted it. It's so satisfying putting together these finishing bits like this bonnet strip that I've had for a while, and I just took it out and decided to put it on and get that like really good feeling of just getting something finished again. Getting the lights fitted has also been a bit of a struggle, thanks to the dodgy quality that you get from aftermarket parts. I don't have the originals, so I had to buy some new 7-inch fittings. The first set of aftermarket halogen headlights that I got from Britpart were useless. They didn't even fit inside the buckets properly. So I decided to get some sealed beam headlights, which seemed to fit fine. But the other problem came trying to fit the headlight bezel surrounds, because they seemed too small. I eventually worked out that the problem was a poor design of the new headlight buckets. If you look closely at this old one that I checked, you can see there's a small recess that allows space for the surround to fit into. But if you look at the new one, you can see that it's flush at the back, so the bezel can't locate properly. So I've had to modify the new one by bending it in slightly to allow space for the bezel to locate. Things are really moving along nicely now, and in the next episode I'm going to get the whole body fitted. Soon this rolling chassis is going to start looking like a Land Rover again. I literally can't wait to get this done, and the motivation levels are at an all-time high. So in the meantime, check out some of my other videos on my channel, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!